Hello, everyone, and welcome to York Universe, the astronomy and astrophysics program written and presented by the students, faculty, alumni, and friends of York University. I'll be one of your hosts this evening. We actually have a whole crew lined up. Tonight, this is Dr. Elena Hyde, I should say, and tonight I'm joined by Ryan Marciniak and later on Robin Metcalf as well. We are broadcasting live from the Allan Carswell Observatory, located at York University in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. York Universe broadcasts every Monday night at 9 p.m. local Toronto time or Tuesday morning at 2 a.m. UT if that's more your speed. York Universe works in concert with our online public viewing program. That's right, run by our very own observatory crew over on YouTube at the exact same time, 9 to 10 p.m. local Toronto time. So if you do want to follow along live with the online public viewing crew, you can always check out the website yorku.ca/science/observatory and follow the links to OPV online public viewing or click on any link on the website that leads to our YouTube. So all those links that say YouTube from our website will take you directly there for the live show. If you do have questions or comments or suggestions for future topics, you can always email us at observe@yorku.ca. You can also find us on social media over on Instagram with York U Observatory and Facebook at Allan Carswell Obs. All of our programs are free, but if you would like to make a donation, of course, we'd appreciate it. You can see that same website over at yorku.ca/science/observatory and just scroll down until you hit the donate button. We will be monitoring the chat room over on YouTube for live questions and, of course, posting content. The current weather around is just incredibly high humidity, so high that we actually cannot open the domes right now. So yeah, how is it where you are, Ryan?
Quite a bit more clear, but also quite humid as far as weather goes. I was thinking about how nice it was last night, and I was up very early this morning as well, and looked at the beautiful morning sky before the sun rose as well. And I was like, wow, this is really great. I'm gonna take a few moments to enjoy this, and then hopefully it's the same tonight. And unfortunately, we
Yeah,
didn't
it's sort
get
of like
there.
a illusion of clear weather.
Ah. Well, and that's being an astronomer in Canada, right? It's either too cold to observe or it doesn't get light until late enough. I mean, we can always find that's a true Canadian thing to complain about the weather, but you know what? We suit up, we go out, and we do it anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely, we do. And unless the instruments in the safety controls of
Yeah,
the 1 meter tell us that we can't open. So
that's
one
true.
was safety first, but yes, whenever we can, we definitely will. So tonight we have lovely archival images being posted over on YouTube from our amazing crew. So join them over there. But we do have all kinds of stuff planned for our show tonight. This, that, and the other thing. But I thought, given the recent news about the and the soon to be appearance,
Hmm.
I just had to sneak in one this week in space and astronomy history just to start off our episode, actually. So you like comets, don't you, Ryan?
What astronomer doesn't like comets? I think every one of us has seen the comet of the century, and I'll
It's
leave it at that. We've all seen the comet of the century, right? Because
the
that's literally please every
yes.
comet that has ever brightened a little bit and was expected to be great is the comet of the century, and sadly most of them disappoint.
Well, the green comet was pretty darn nice through the 1 meter telescope.
Oh well, okay.
And we are looking forward to even more comets this year. As sort of a spoiler for the news item, Comet A3. But yeah, it was nearly this day back in 1847. So October 1st, 1847, there was a pretty famous comet discovery. This was Maria Mitchell. So Mitchell discovered this comet 1847. So again, we have to remember this is a while ago.
Mhm.
um, But this comet was named C 1847, so Comet 1847, T1. And this it's also called Miss Mitchell's Comet, sort of after her. It was actually initially credited to someone else, which did happen to a lot of female astronomers back in the day. But she actually did end up getting credit for this. They found out that she had observed the comet 2 days before Francisco de Vico from Rome, and she became recognized as the comet's discoverer, which actually was notable in itself in 1847. So the comet, it had a weekly, what's called weekly hyperbolic orbit. So inside the plane of our solar system, if you can kind of imagine all of the planets sort of orbiting in kind of like a, I don't know, a racetrack or a plate type of shape is what I usually imagine. And then the comet orbits are different because they go above and below the plane of the solar system often. This one was going around the sun, and when it was initially discovered, they were able to tell that it looks like it might be bound to the sun. The last perihelion was in 1847, and we are not sure when it's coming back, if it's coming back. So it remains a little bit of a cometary mystery because of course on its way out, we now have almost no chance of seeing it at all. So this was a notable discovery, and what was even more notable is that not only did she manage to claw back credit for it, she discovered this comet the same day she was elected to the American Academy of Arts, and she was also the first woman to be so elected. It was kind of a big deal, and the discovery of the comet by itself actually got her another accolade, and the King of Denmark awarded her sort of a gold medal for the Discovery Prize, and I believe she was the first person to receive an award in astronomy, and the first American and the first woman to receive this award. So she was a notable astronomer. She had a this was the start, well, maybe not the start, the mid of a very storied career in the 1800s, because Mitchell went on to actually teach. She had a professorate at Vassar College in 1865. So she was the first female professor of astronomy in 1865. She had a lot of firsts. So she was actually hired and was sought out by Matthew Vassar of Vassar College to be a professor there. And she had gained a reputation in astronomy, largely with this comet and her sort of gold medal award from the King of Denmark, which is kind of awesome. I wish we had more of those for prizes of identifications through telescopes now. It would be pretty cool. But yeah, she had a pretty amazing career, amazing astronomy, really awesome comet discovery, and a lot of firsts in terms of, first woman honored with this award, first woman professor of astronomy, and of course, um, you know, went on to do lots and lots of great things. Her students did a lot of original research at the time, from domes in their observatory, and it's kind of an awesome story. So yeah, I believe she did also do some eclipse work, so looking at total eclipses of the sun, looking at studying science, but also, of course, given the time and the number of firsts I've just mentioned, the discussion of politics and women's issues often came into a lot of her work as well. And she was notable, and I thought this would be a fun one, is that one of the popular traditions was an annual dome party. And this was something that the undergraduates also took place in. And it did actually remind me a little bit of our annual October Halloween dome party at our observatory. So I thought, well, this is a wonderful collection a wonderful collection and a wonderful time in space and astronomy history, and of course a wonderful comet discovery.
You're channeling your inner Maria Mitchell when you run that program.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm not sure that our poetry is as good because when I was poking around, one of the things I actually found was some of the poems, and we have some puns for Halloween at the observatory, but they actually have astronomy poems from the 1800s. I think I have one actually here. So this was poems composed.
Mhm.
One poem, yeah, uh, poems composed by Mitchell. I'm just making sure I'm saying that right. These were actual poems that she wrote,
Huh.
and some of them were uh, sort of like highly political battle hymns of the Republic and so on. But there's a really short one, and this is pertinent because this planet is up in the sky right now. So this is
Mm.
one of her poems. While Saturn's ring is poised aright, and Saturn's moon still glow, the five who watched them many a night will not from memory go. And it's
Wow.
a poem, I think for I believe it was, yeah, um, for her students who were doing Saturn observing.
Well, that's quite beautiful.
Yeah, anyways, and a poet to beat. So,
There you go. Yeah, that's
uh,
a challenge for future parties, I suppose.
yeah,
Um,
so future astronomer poetry challenge. If anyone wants to take it up, we will be accepting poems all throughout the observatory Halloween event this year.
I mean, there's certainly poetry slams all the time. I don't know, Elena, have you done a science slam before?
Not a science poetry slam. I
Well,
don't.
there's what we need to do
I
next then.
I think it would be really hard to do off the top of your head because at some point,
Yeah,
you
we'd allow prep time, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'd have to allow some practice.
We're going to take a bunch of
And so
scientists who have perhaps not studied poetry in excess, and yeah, we'll give them a little bit of time to prepare a poem instead of going off the top. I don't know if we're well suited for that. Maria Mitchell would have
yeah,
been, of course, but
yeah, and of course, like things like verse arrangement and they did ones where they would imitate other famous poems of the time. Um, and I think that would be a little bit harder now for sure. But I think it would be pretty fun to come up with some actual astronomy poems and maybe like limit it to, you know, 4 to 5 line poems. And that you would end up with a lot of rhymes though.
maybe we do interplanetary haiku or something.
Yeah, interplanetary haiku.
There you
That's a
go.
good idea.
We're
I'll leave that one. I'll leave that one to you, and I'll do the rhymes with lots of puns
Oh,
in
that's
them.
okay. This event is writing itself, I think. It's preparing itself. Maria Mitchell, what a trailblazer for all the future women astronomers who came after her, um,
Yeah.
yourself included. I mean, you know, a couple of things I've been reading about her. Uh, Very strong social activism and desire for social justice. She realized that she and her female colleague on the faculty at Vassar were being paid less than a lot of the younger male professors and demanded a salary increase, which
Yeah.
they received. So this is, fighting this inequality. She was also big on anti-slavery,
Yes. Yes. She and
women's
yeah.
suffrage.
Yeah, and that's actually an important point is that they did use their observatory as well as a
Hmm.
gathering point
Hmm.
for people, for politics, for poetry.
I like that observatories were used like that. I think that's a good use. There's often the talk about the demise of the third home or the third place, right? We have our home, maybe our school or our job, and then having a third place where we engage with others in our community. I think a telescope and observatory is a great place to do that, to gather people.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, and certainly. The Allan Carswell does a great job of that with the events and the observing and what we're doing right
That's
now. That's
yeah, actually, excellent segue. We were going to do the reminder later, but since you mentioned it,
Mhm.
there is a free tour this Wednesday.
There you
So this
go.
Wednesday and pretty much every Wednesday, this Wednesday will be out on the Arboretum parking garage. So,
Fantastic.
um, yeah, and hopefully the real clear skies actually happen. That would be nice.
Well, it's a great venue, and having been up there now, uh, I think the common thought is, okay, I'm going to York University in Toronto. It's in a city, it's in a big city. What am I really going to see? There's got to be buildings everywhere, but going up the parking garage, there's just this fantastic view of
Yeah.
the sky. And you're just hidden from a lot of the buildings, the taller buildings on campus. You're hidden from a lot of the bright lights. And yes, you're still dealing with city skies, but every astronomer knows that there are always things to observe, whether you're in a bright city or perfectly dark skies.
Oh yeah, and it's you do get challenges in every location.
Sure. Yeah.
I think, the dark sky challenge at York is fair,
Yeah.
but we can still make out a ton of detail. And the crazy thing is too, even with just the 40 centimeter
Hmm.
telescope out on the Arboretum parking garage, we see so much detail in
Hmm.
objects like the moon and the planets. Of course, Saturn's up, Jupiter is rising later, but it'll
Yeah.
be Jupiter in the next month or so. Jupiter's going to be pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Mars is late as well, but rising.
Yeah, and
Um,
exactly as the winter progresses,
mhm.
we'll get more and more Mars action, which is only going to be good.
Absolutely. So there's always lots to look at in the sky, and whether you're in a city, I think this is something that a lot of the public have this almost a knee-jerk reaction to city skies and think, well, I just can't see stars. Well, it helps when you know what you're looking for. It helps when you have an expert there, an astronomer, science communicator, somebody who can help guide you and show you what there is to look at, and you'll be blown away to come to an event like this and actually be able to see things in the sky. It doesn't matter where you are, the sky is always there for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's there in some ways, the city skies are actually easier to navigate, and this will
Mhm.
this will segue into your recent experience because in the city skies you do get light pollution, so only the brightest stars come through,
Mhm.
and it actually does make it a little bit easier to pick out the constellations and to follow the constellations around the sky, because you can't see all the stars. So, you have a little bit of a disadvantage in that there's less to pick out. But if you're trying to star hop and point your binoculars at brighter objects, in the city is, just not next to a street lamp, but you'll be able to do really, really well, and you'll be surprised at the number and variety of different objects you can find. Small binoculars even have been known to pick out the Andromeda galaxy.
Mhm.
There's some really really fun things to point at, and of course some really easy ones like bright Vega, and actually, it's been in the news a lot, so probably everyone's aware that T-Core Bohr is about to get really
Yeah.
bright any minute now. We
That's what we're hearing. Yes, any minute for the past three
Any minute
weeks.
now. Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. And any couple weeks now, definitely going to happen. So yeah, it does mean that there are limits as to how faint objects you can see, but that's always the case.
yeah.
And if we're looking for comets, which we might
Mhm.
be, and I'll just mention really quickly, in the next couple of weeks, we are looking at a potentially very, very nice comet. I wouldn't go so far as to say comet of the century, but maybe. It's getting brighter and brighter. It's currently magnitude 2, and it goes by the nickname A3. And that comet right now is beautifully visible in the southern hemisphere,
Mhm.
and it's traveling with respect to the stars. So it's traveling sort of across the constellations. It's right now in Leo, but in the next couple of weeks, it is going to become visible from the northern hemisphere. And if it keeps increasing in brightness, it's already magnitude 2. So this is going to be a naked eye object. And if it, I mean, I don't know how bright it's going to get. I don't think anyone really knows. Um, but if it keeps increasing in brightness, it could become something that you could even see naked eye in a city site. At magnitude 2, I would say you're sort of on the edge for Toronto naked eye visibility.
Yeah.
But the tail length is 5 degrees, which is 10 times larger than the moon.
Wow.
And it's yeah, the early astrophotography coming out of Australia and other places is absolutely spectacular. And so there's definitely a case to be made for training up your observing skills, shall we
Hmm.
say, to get ready for this comet coming visible in the northern hemisphere as well. And I mean, it's always possible that it gets dimmer and not brighter, but we'll hold out hope and do some planning. But if you can get to a darker sky site, that's where you're really going to win viewing faint objects like, for example, a comet's tail.
Hmm.
And I figured this would be a great time for you to talk about dark skies, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I'm going to call this the comet of the century because our century is only 24 years old. And so I'm trying to think of a better one that's happened this century. Perhaps Neowise. I don't know.
Well, we
Maybe.
don't know until it gets here, right? So
That's
this
true.
this comet this comet hasn't happened yet,
No.
but C 2022 E3, the green comet,
That was a
that
nice
was
one.
pretty darn good.
Hmm.
From Toronto.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't spectacular naked eye visible, but it was a pretty good comet that we got excellent views of from Toronto.
But yes, there you go. And it would have looked much nicer in the dark skies of Killarney Provincial Park, which is where I was last week.
Tell
Um,
me more.
2 weeks ago now, I should say, because last week is has
Oh,
come and
that's right.
gone.
Yes.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago now, although time has no meaning anymore, so things go so quickly. But no, I was lucky enough to be a participant for a first time participant in the astronomer in residence program at Killarney Provincial Park. So I spent a week up in the park, um, right next to the observatory and the apartment that they have up there, which is just a great spot. And I will say, astronomically lucky to have four pristine, clear nights in a row.
Yeah, and
The
you had Aurora as well, didn't you?
I did on the Monday night. We had just caught the tail end of the last big storm from the sun. And so off in the north, I could see the green glow with a little bit of red. I captured a nice photo, which you can find on the Astronomer in Residence blog that I wrote. And I think you reposted it as well, Elena, to the.
Yes, and actually we're nearing the midpoint where I would usually give a reminder about the website anyways.
Yeah.
But if anybody listening does want to see some amazing pictures from Ryan's blog, it's actually the same website, yorku.ca/science/observatory, but then you just click on Astronomer in Residence program and go to the blog area. And Ryan's blog is all there with the pictures embedded. And honestly, that Aurora picture is just amazing.
It was really nice. It was the Chihuahua Debaving. I definitely didn't say that right, but it was over that observatory, and so it's a beautiful shot of the dome, and then the trees in the background, and then the aurora to the north. And it was just a really magical experience, especially because it was my first night there. And I continued to not sleep for the remaining week, the rest of the week, as we got beautiful clear skies. The caveat, and everybody told me this, that you're going up and it's going to be a full moon. Yeah, it's going to be a full moon. Well, yeah, it was a full moon, but it was also a partial lunar eclipse, which I got to see, which was really nice
Yeah,
on
that's
on
right. You
Tuesday.
were there during the partial.
Yeah, I got to watch the whole thing in beautiful dark skies. I was lucky enough. One of the jobs um, for the experience of being the astronomer in residence is to get to deliver three distinct programs during the week, up to three. I did three because I want to do as many as possible and see as many people as possible. So I was lucky enough to do some solar observing on the Wednesday. On the Thursday night, we did some live telescope observing. Another beautifully clear night. We had the 16-inch telescope trained on Saturn on for the 2 hour period, and we had the 10-inch telescope pointed at the moon. And that, you were talking a little bit about things to see in the city earlier on, and that immediately made me think about how wonderful it was we had about 80 guests in the 2 hour period. And so we were running
Oh
the
yeah.
telescopes constantly, and it was really wonderful to see the reactions to people seeing the moon through a telescope for the first time. Yes, it's a large telescope, a 10-inch telescope, but even through binoculars, we had been a couple days past the full moon phase, so we got a little bit of the waning gibbous, a little bit of the terminator of the moon casting its shadow and actually being able to see the depth of some craters. It was this really wonderful experience for everybody that got to watch it. And because it was the moon, it was very easy for me as the operator to just train the telescope on it and have conversations with guests as they came through and kind of talk about how they were feeling with that experience. And so, most of these people had never seen the moon through anything stronger than their own vision. And so it was a really wonderful experience. And then the final thing, final program I just mentioned was on the Saturday night. It was actually not clear for the rest of the week after those 4 pristine nights, but it was nice to do a talk in the amphitheater that they have on site there, which is a really nice little space. I was able to do a talk to do some Q&A and show some of the content and software that I use in my planetariums. So that was quite wonderful to do that and to have this nice experience. And I was lucky enough to bring my family with me. We have 2 young kids, and we all had a wonderful time exploring the park and enjoying the telescopes and running the programs and just being in this beautiful place. We got some fall colors. Like there was just nothing that was bad about this. And I really I'm grateful. I haven't really had a chance to say this, Elaine. I'm really grateful for you and all the crew who were up at Killarney as well for this wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah,
So
it's a
yeah.
magical place, and that's why I was so happy to get the agreement with Killarney Park that
Hmm.
we can run their astronomer in residence program. This is
Hmm.
actually the third year we've done it, and it's such a I think the dark uh, Bortle class skies are one aspect,
Hmm.
and the other is that you are actually surrounded by the Killarney Provincial Park, which is
Oh,
nature. And we talk a lot about observing and the difference it makes for dim, faint objects. We were talking about, of course, comets and seeing faint nebular structure. You said aurora,
hmm.
and just from your purely from your eyes perspective, being able to untangle more details in these faint structures is technically better, but when you put it into that environment where you're also out in nature and you're also being able to share it with large numbers of people. I,
Hmm.
I would say it definitely takes it to the next level for both the astronomers and the guests.
And I had to laugh as well because you mentioned earlier about, enjoying brighter skies where you can count stars and observe constellations more easily without them being washed out by several dimmer stars. That was a comment that some of the guests made on the Saturday night, that it was easier to see constellations because we had this bright moon washing
Yeah,
away all the dimmer stars. And so,
yeah, yeah.
on one side, I could lament that as an astronomer who wants to enjoy a dark sky preserve, but also I'm an astronomer who wants to be outside and observing and in nature. And that's what we did with the moon, with Saturn, with the aurora. Looked at a couple of star clusters. There's so many nice things to see, even when you have bright skies. But the important part was that we had clear skies, clear weather, and on a personal note, I definitely made the most of my experience and my time there. And so I'm excited to come back and be a part of the program again in the future, and hopefully we see a lot of the astronomers returning. I'm sure our next guest slash co-host, excuse me, should want to talk about
Yeah, yeah,
that.
definitely, of course. And I mean, we do run this every year. So if you're listening to this on podcasts or other places, and want to apply, the applications always come open in January, end of
Mhm.
January or February, depending on how fast I am. So something to keep in mind if you
Yep.
have specific weeks you're planning to apply for. And the it is funny you mentioned the constellations because, of course, if you were there on a new moon when it's really, really dark,
Hmm.
I actually was there for the darkest of dark skies, and I found it hard to find the constellations. And I've been looking at constellations for a very long time, and it is kind of funny because it gets when the skies get that dark, you see so many stars.
Hmm.
It is actually hard to see the constellations, like even for a professional.
I
So
absolutely echo that, Elena. Sorry to interrupt, but when hi everybody. But
Welcome.
hello,
when
welcome,
I
it's
was up,
Robin.
yeah, when I was up there last week, the moon was not up at the time that we were doing the observing night, and there are so many stars. It's insane, and it is very difficult to pick out constellations.
Well, this is actually perfect timing, Robin, because I think we were going to just go halfway here between Robin and Ryan. And Ryan,
Sure.
thank you so much for coming in today.
Ryan, it
Um,
Always
was great
glad
to
to.
hear the end of your experience there as well, and I echo so much of what you said. I'm just so grateful to Elena for this program.
Hmm. Hmm. And I'll say in advance that I'm probably going to echo a lot of the thoughts you have, although you now have gotten to see the true clear dark skies, pristine dark skies of a dark sky preserve up at Killarney. So I think I'll aim for that next year. At any rate, I'm excited to listen to what you have to say. And thank you for having me on, Elena, as always. It's wonderful to be on York Universe, and I hope to be back again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan, and we'll catch you again later.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. All right, Robin. So everyone probably noticed this is Robin Metcalf coming on. Switching points halfway with Ryan. So, Robin, we were just catching you up on Astronomer in Residence, and we did start off the episode today with Maria Mitchell and comets, which got us to dark sky preserves and the Astronomer
Hmm.
in Residence. And of course, your experience at Astronomer in Residence this last year. I think it had some things in common with Ryan's, but you did have a lot less moon than he did.
Yes. And if you recall, so this is round two for me. My first attempt last year, we had one clear night. And
Yeah.
then like all of the my events were canceled, and it just got worse and worse. And then on the very last day, as a farewell gift, it snowed.
Yeah,
So this
yeah.
was up the first week of October. So to go back this time and near perfect weather for most of it, blue skies, warm. It was just heavenly. And leaving yesterday, my heart hurt, honestly. Like, it's just the most beautiful place. There is so much to do. And I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, it is it's a combination of nice telescopes, beautiful surrounding, really lots and lots of members of the public to come in, and that always makes it more fun for everybody. And of course, we do have our weekly tour events. And actually, I should put in an extra reminder because this week we are on the I did forget to say, so let me just go ahead and do the actual reminder here for York Universe because we have a little bit of a special event happening this Wednesday. Just as a reminder, everyone, you are listening to York Universe, currently broadcasting live from the Allan Carswell Observatory, located at York University in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The website for all of the free tickets to events and other items and the donation button is yorku.ca/science/observatory. And of course, we're on Instagram and Facebook. And we just said good evening to Ryan, but I've still got Robin here. And we are talking about astronomers in residence and actually, events and observing and comets. And this week we have a special event because Wednesday is our regular open free public viewing Wednesday, every Wednesday pretty much. The atrium tour tickets are up from 7:30. They're free on the website. And this week on October 2nd, that's the Wednesday, we actually have Frask Toronto Centre joining us for the observing. So not at the beginning, but just after their RAN meeting, they will be joining us out on the Arboretum parking garage roof with some of their telescopes too. So we're hoping to make it a proper party this October 2nd.
That
I'm
is
very
extremely cool.
Yeah, very collegial. And of course, it's always really fun whenever you get more telescopes involved in anything.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we're really looking forward to that. And I realized I was like, you know what? Let me put this in a proper a proper announcement. And whenever you have a chance to incorporate your own telescopes in observing, it always does add just a little bit of extra fun into it. We have two telescopes out at Killarney Park, the 10 and the 14-inch. But a lot of times people bring, binoculars or even just a planisphere to enjoy. And I believe you had something larger, didn't you?
I had what the Marask Mississauga members call the yard cannon. And it's funny, I got it at a auction. It was a Rask Mississauga picnic. And
Mm.
so it's a 10-inch Dobsonian. It's homemade. I think it's about 50 years old. And we don't know who the original maker was, but it got into the hands of Rask Mississauga several years ago, and they've been renting it out as part of their like arsenal of telescopes that they rent out to members. But no one ever has been renting this telescope because it's big. It's like 6 feet and it's heavy. It's about 60 pounds altogether. And so you need, a vehicle that can cart it around, and it's not convenient. But
Yeah, and this one is also got a name. Is it really called Fred?
Fred the Yard Cannon, only because in the time
Okay,
that
okay.
it was maintained, it was rented out by Rask. One of the Rask members, Fred, took really loving care of it, and I think he built. It's got a wooden base that it kind of rotates like a lazy Susan, and yeah, he just took excellent care of it. So it was brought to the picnic auction just this last spring, and started out at $75. And I was like, I have to have that thing. And it turns out there was one other member there who wanted it as well. So we kept going up by $5.
Oh my
And
gosh.
finally at $250 he caved, and it became my new baby. So I
Amazing.
absolutely love it. It is so perfect. It is the perfect public outreach tool. And I take it to every this event that you just described this Wednesday. We do that once a month at Riverwood Conservancy in Mississauga. And all the members all bring out their telescopes. We get like 200 people. It's sold out every month, and we all set up our telescopes. And people line up to this yard cannon. And what's so great about it is that even though the view isn't that spectacular, because it's very simple optics, but the public with no telescope experience at all, they can steer it themselves, right? It's totally not
Yeah,
automated. You just
yeah.
like, people line up and they're like, Miss, can you help me see this? Can you help me see that? And I'm like, no, you do it. You just, there's Saturn right over there. Peer through the finder scope, center it in the crosshairs, hug the tube, and just move it intuitively how you think that you should go. And once it's centered, look through the main tube, and there it is. And so even though through the main tube, like it base at Saturn, for example, will look just like a tiny dot with a line through it. The fact that they found it themselves blows their mind. And
Oh
the
yeah.
reaction is huge. It's huge. So I love it. And the at Killarney, when we had the observing night, unfortunately, we had some issues with the 16-inch. There was some kind of software upgrade that was preventing it from
I heard
tracking.
about this one. It's the attack of the Microsoft upgrades or something.
Yeah, it was very frustrating because both myself and Marianne, who was helping me out, we had been in there the night before, and it was tracking perfectly fine. So, and it was, so this problem happened right when, everyone started showing up, and unfortunately, it couldn't be fixed in time. But the yard cannon was huge. So yeah, and there was this one guest who was just like so good at finding stuff. And I find after an hour or so, my eyes just get exhausted when people are asking me to help them. So I said, can you just stick around and be my assistant? And she was so happy to help people find Saturn, and that's pretty much what we were pointing out with the cannon. But it was great. It was really, really great. So now that
Oh
I know that
yeah.
you've got this event going on Wednesday night, maybe I will bring it with me and see you up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, the more the merrier. Everyone's invited as long as it doesn't rain. That's the only requirement for Arboretum tours is that
Hmm.
the weather is clear. And it's interesting you mentioned about finding a helper with good eyes. Is I do find that one of the great benefits of having a good number of younger people around, students and etc., is that when you are of a younger age than myself, your eyes are more flexible, so you're going to have
Yes.
the best vision you're ever going to have when you're younger. And as you
Yes.
get
Enjoy
older,
it.
yeah, whatever your vision is, this is either bad news or good news for somebody. But whatever your
Yeah.
vision is now, it's just going to get worse over time. But your eyes actually can't adjust as well either. And
Yeah.
this is just a purely optical effect where you will have trouble bringing things into focus even through a telescope. And so your eyes will become strained more easily, and this is how some of us end up with reading glasses and various things.
Yeah, and
Um,
where you really notice it at my age is with night vision. It's very, very
yes,
noticeable.
yes,
So, and and it's hard to be in this business of public outreach and stuff when you just can't see what everyone else is seeing. So, you do your best,
well,
and you employ young assistants. So, all
yes,
good.
especially getting a. So if you're ever near, if you're a student and you wonder, does that old professor want help? The answer is probably
Yes,
yes.
yes, I do.
So, so feel free to ask to help with the telescopes, and if it's one that's safe for you to use, we will let you use it.
Yes, and
There
that's what's
are
so
a
great
few.
about the yard cannon is it is
Yes,
indestructible. So like little kids they get excited, they want to kind of like lean on it and the parents are like, "Oh no, be careful." I'm like, "No, you do not have to be careful. That you cannot break that thing. If you could break it, I would have broken it a long time ago." So,
yeah, and that's actually worth mentioning is that the Dobsonians, usually, a really simple Dobsonian, if you are going to make it yourself, they can be extremely cost effective. So
mm,
$250 for a Dobsonian is a little bit on the expendy side.
yeah.
But if it's one that you really, really want, it's worth it. But also, like, if you're willing to put in a little effort to make the frame,
Hmm.
Dobsonian telescopes are kind of famous for beginners for a reason. And that's because they're very, very inexpensive. And if you're willing to put in some of the work yourself, they get even cheaper.
Hmm.
And they tend to be very, very durable, as opposed to some of the Cassegrains and things that you'll find on uh, like telescope supply stores that have all the electronics and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I have a 6-inch Ritchie Chrétien telescope that terrifies me. It's on like it's got a fancy mount and all that, and I hardly ever use it because it takes forever to set it up. But that Dobsonian, 5 minutes. It comes in two pieces, and you just stick them together, and then you're going. So it's pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
but it will not track, right? So that's the other
No, it
important.
definitely will not track. Yeah, but it does move so easily. So again, it's really just a great tool for public outreach and visual stuff, but you can't obviously do any like astrophotography with it. What you can do though is I've got one of those cell phone adapters,
Oh
and
yes, yes.
you just attach it to the eyepiece, and you can stick a cell phone in there and take a picture of what you see through the eyepiece.
And that's actually a place where actually it has gotten surprisingly good. Cell phone cameras are now
Oh yeah. I've got
very respectable.
fantastic high resolution photos of the moon with my cheap Samsung phone attached to that telescope.
So the pictures you posted on your blog, and this is just a reminder for folks that Robin also has her blog up on the same website, yorku.ca/science/observatory, astronomer in residence. Some lovely astrophotography pictures you've put up.
Oh,
Are any
I
of those from
almost
your?
done. Yeah,
phone?
I'm just finishing up that 90 minutes of star trails and a Milky Way shot over the dome that turned out nicely. So that'll should be up there by tomorrow.
Excellent. Well, how many of those astrophotography pictures were you able to use your phone for, or were you using the science camera?
Oh, the ones that are up there right now were all from the science camera, from the
Okay.
laptop. That's in there, yeah,
But you
on
can't,
the 5 inch,
yeah,
I
I
think.
was wondering if you had any comparison pictures.
Oh,
I have
yeah,
seen
I
people
did
posting,
actually. I did take some cell phone shots through the 16 inch, like just,
mhm.
hovering my cell phone over. And they're definitely not as good. Um, you know what? They would have been much sharper if I had attached my cell phone adapter, which I didn't have on me. So because I was just holding my phone with my hand,
Yep.
they didn't come out crystal clear. But I did get an almost clear shot of Jupiter with through the 16 inch on my cell phone with all four moons visible. It's a little bit murky.
Excellent. Well, that would be great because it's always fun to see comparison between because the phones have gotten way, 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 way better.
Oh yeah, it's
And
amazing. Yeah, I'll
I
put
mean,
those cell phone shots up there for comparison.
yeah. And I mean, obviously, astronomical cameras have also gotten better. But if you didn't
Hmm.
want to buy an astronomical camera and you just wanted to have some cool pictures, you would do pretty well with a cell phone and a Dobsonian. So,
Yeah, that's something that happens a lot whenever like both at the Observing Night in Killarney and also at the Mississauga event that I volunteer at, which is helping people unlock the power of their cell phones by showing them manual mode, which every phone comes with. And just showing them that they have control over the exposure time and the ISO and what that can do for them. Like it enables people to take pictures of the Northern Lights and brings out the Milky Way and all that kind of stuff. So that's always a really exciting moment for me is showing people that.
yeah, and actually, this is relevant to the conversation we had, I think, a little bit before you got here, Robin, which is that, coming up in the next few weeks, we will be treated to Comet C 2023 A3,
Hmm.
which has a little bit of a difficult name. I think it's Tushinshan Atlas, but I might be
Hmm.
pronouncing that first one a little wrong.
Hmm.
Um, this comet is already magnitude 2, and this is the one that has the tail that's 5 degrees long and it's on its
Right.
way to the north. So if you were trying to get pictures of it, what you might find is if you can get to a reasonably dark-ish space, so even in the city, you go to a park where there's no lights or something,
Hmm.
and you can get a reasonable view, you'll be able to tease out some details from this comet, but it's going to be so hard to get a picture of unless you adjust the exposure time on whatever you're taking the picture with.
Right. Right.
Because
I've
this is
seen
exactly the
some.
kind of thing that won't come out unless you've found your settings and actually
Yes,
change your exposure
unleash the
time.
power of your cell phone. I've seen some fantastic images from the southern hemisphere so far of this comet.
Yes.
And I was informed recently, I don't know if you talked about this yet today, about some new sun grazing comet that could be coming up this month if it doesn't get consumed by the sun. Did you guys talk about that?
No, we didn't actually. I mean, I do have 13P Olbers on my list, but that's
So this one, it's
already
so
magnitude
new.
9.7.
Yeah, this one is so new. It doesn't have an official name yet. So far, it's called A11BP71. But it is predicted to be okay, so perihelion, I'm just looking at the data right now, October 28, 2024, magnitude -7. And
Oh, excellent. So we're going to
yeah,
get two comets kind of back to back. I actually hadn't read about this one, but
yeah,
it
this
looks
I
like it's going
just
to be coming fairly soon after the current one.
Yeah, I just learned about it over the last couple of days. If it survives perihelion, it will later become visible in the mid-northern latitudes during the morning. It was discovered September 27th. And let's see.
Yeah, excellent. And of course, from the Minor Planet Center. I see it now.
Okay,
It
good.
has,
Yes, this might become
yeah.
brighter than Venus, visible with the naked eye, even in the daytime sky. So, that could be pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it's always a question of will it survive?
Right,
And
right.
will there be a major fragmentation event? Will it just not do what we think, which happens a surprising amount of the time as well?
Yes, they are not our performing
Um,
monkeys.
so it's actually okay, so we're going to get comet A3, and then we're going to get maybe another comet after that.
Right. C 2024 S1. Okay. So did you guys talk about comet naming today earlier?
Briefly, I think it's been in a few of the other episodes, but yes,
Okay,
the
okay.
C is for comet, and then the 2023, 2024, etc. That's the year it was discovered. We did,
Yeah.
of course, cover Maria Mitchell's comet, which was C 1845, right?
Okay. Sounds good.
So that was that was our history item,
Oh,
and
okay, okay.
it was yeah, no, sorry, C 1847 was the comet,
And
not 1845.
did it have like a letter and a number after it as well?
Yeah, it was C 1847 T1.
Okay. Right. So the letters are half months, right? So like A is
Hmm.
the first half of January, B is the second half, and then the one is the number of comets that were discovered in that window. Right. So what are this one is A3 that we yeah, comet so 2023 A3, right. So it was discovered in first half of January 2023, but it was the third comet discovered during that window. And the C means that it's a non-periodic, right? Like it's got an open path and probably we'll only see it once, I think.
Uh,
Whereas P slash year is periodic. I
yeah,
think
and
that's how it
it's
works.
hyperbolic versus
Exactly.
yeah.
Elliptical
So
or whatever.
yeah, or like various forms of ellipsoids. I forget exactly what the order was.
Right, right.
But yeah, the 1847 was hyperbolic, but there was an orbiting solution.
Uh-huh.
So it actually was bound to the sun,
Oh,
despite being a
interesting.
C 1847.
Right,
I
right.
mean, and
Interesting.
the other thing, of course, is they think, right?
Right.
Because if it comes back, it's not going to be for a long time.
Right. Yes.
Um,
Oh yeah, the exciting skies. Um, yeah, so Killarney, it was amazing. The last round one, I was 0 for 3 as far as events. This time, 2 out of 3 because the solar observing day that was on the Wednesday that was canceled because it was I mean, there was nothing to see, just all clouds.
mm,
But that was okay. Things cleared up, and we had a perfect night on the on Friday, which was the observing night, and then Saturday was the talk in the amphitheater. And I don't know if Ryan described the scene, but it's like the dreamiest classroom you could possibly teach in. It's so gorgeous, especially at this time of year.
oh
And
yeah,
it starts out, we started at 7, so it was like somewhat sunset, and then the sky darkens as you're talking and you look out and it's just like golden. It's just absolutely amazing. Like all classrooms in all schools and universities should look like that.
yeah. Well,
Why do
and
we teach in these dungeons with no light? Like
there's no
all
reason
schools should
why
be
we can't
outside.
have an outdoor amphitheater or 5, right? Because
Right,
the outdoor amphitheater it's got seating, it's got projection, it's got a stage, a microphone, everything you need to give a lecture, but outside.
right.
I think that we should have at least 5 of those, and I should be
Oh
able
my
to.
God, we should. Do you remember when we were kids in school and it was like our teachers would say, "Oh, we're going to have class outside today." And everybody loses their minds. It's like the greatest day on earth. Why do we not do that at university?
We should. Let's start a petition.
We
You and me.
should. We have classroom space issues at York. We should have outdoor amphitheaters.
Absolutely. And actually, if I do get approved, I am actually looking at buying one of those little
Portable
portable
planetarium.
microphones,
Oh,
which is
cool.
all that
Oh,
you to
for what you
actually
do,
give a
that'd be
lecture
amazing.
Yeah, so if you did have the portable microphone, my thought is, if we did have the portable microphone, you actually wouldn't need to bring anything else with you,
Ah,
if your
yeah,
lecture was
you
about
got the sky. It's
the
right
sky.
there. Yeah, like
It's
Nat
just
1740 astronomy.
class will be at 5 p.m. today,
Yes,
or
yes. So
whenever
if
sunset
we
is.
taught that class outside at night, introducing students to the actual sky rather than the PowerPoint sky, why don't we do that? You
Yeah.
know, it's in three dimensions, the motion is there, like that is the way to teach astronomy.
Well, and we've already got the top of the Arboretum parking garage
Exactly,
going.
exactly.
Let's do it. All right. Sounds like we have a an awesome plan.
Yep.
Um, and it, of course, if people are looking forward to trying to go out and look at some of the fun things we've been talking about tonight, if you have anywhere near clear skies, you'll be able to see the really bright stuff, like, of course, the planet Saturn, and later tonight, the planet Jupiter, and bright stars like Vega. But for comets and other things, just keep in mind that you might have heard things, well, in this program even about comet of the century, but brightness of comets is notoriously hard to predict because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we call them dirty snowballs, sometimes we call them balls of ice and gas and dust, but we don't know if they're going to break up. We don't know how much stuff is going to evaporate off of them. So you don't really know how bright the comet is going to be for you until you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we're watching all these beautiful pictures coming out of Australia of Comet A3, and it could be just as good here in the Northern
Mm-hmm.
Hemisphere, but don't take that as any kind of guarantee.
Mm-hmm. It'll be pretty
um,
exciting though if like one of our Wednesday observing nights on the Arboretum, because
yes,
the timing is there, right?
the
That
timing
it
is there.
might be visible.
Yeah, in the coming weeks, look for those Wednesdays and hope for clear skies because the next few tours we actually have made Arboretum tours to try to maximize our use of October.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do get a daylight comet, then it won't be any problem at all for everyone to look at it. So
God, that would be
um,
amazing.
that would be amazing. But yeah,
I'm excited
October.
to introduce Fred the Yard Cannon to a comet. That would be so cool.
And I will introduce the 1 meter to the comet.
Oh wow. That's just going to be absolutely spectacular. Really excited about that. See the photos.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had so many interesting comments. It is true that they discover comets all the time, right? And we had recently Comet Pons Brooks, which some people
Hmm.
might remember. They gave it the name Devil Comet, but it honestly it didn't seem all that devilly to me. It's like, oh, it had a little bit of structure to it, but
Hmm.
we've seen a lot of comets and comet action, I would say, and it is getting to be easier and easier to find these things because there are more all sky surveys, and there
Right.
are more all sky surveys going to fainter and fainter magnitudes. So things
Right.
that are really, really dim that ordinarily we wouldn't have been able to find, we can now find. And when you go back in time, our first, our little small This Week in Space and Astronomy History, Maria Mitchell, 1847. She was searching for comets and objects with a 12-inch telescope.
Hmm.
And that was I believe, gosh, which was it Vassar? Anyways, it was just a 12-inch telescope, and
Hmm.
finding these was a rare event. It took a lot of effort to find and discover these comets, and you had to have one of the best telescopes in the world, which at the point,
Right.
12-inch telescope was one of the it was only second in size to one telescope in the entire North America. So
Hmm.
that's what the cutting edge was in 1847. But now we have so many telescopes and cameras and Dobsonians and people with phone cameras. searching the skies, if you are plugged into any of the surveys, you can even contribute and say, hey, I think I found something. It's moving with respect to the background stars.
Yeah,
Send it in.
yeah, there was a really good talk at Starfest just this last August about uh, a, guy who had discovered, I can't remember if it was comets or asteroids from Chile. And he was talking about how the days of amateur astronomers discovering these things is dwindling because there are so many all-sky surveys out there now with obviously much more fancy equipment than the average amateur astronomer would have. So it's kind of sad to hear that.
Well, you still get the lucky discoveries, and it's no reason. I would say for amateur astronomers, you still always have a chance. And of course,
Hmm.
some of the most famous comets that have been discovered were by amateurs. Of course, David Levy, I have to mention here right at the
Hmm.
end of the show.
Hmm.
We don't really have time to talk about him, but oh my gosh, amazing amateur astronomer from Canada who was a major player in comet discovery and minor planets.
Hmm.
So he is still around, and we'll have to save him for a different episode, I think.
Hmm.
Um, all right, so I think on that note, we're going to wrap up our Killarney Comet sandwich
Hmm.
here.
Well, thank you for having me. That was fun, and yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to go back next year.
Well, applications open at the end of January, so look forward to hearing
Very
from you.
cool.
And of course, look forward to your blog always. And
Hmm.
everybody, you have been listening to York Universe, the astronomy and astrophysics program written and presented by the students, faculty, alumni, and friends of York University. The hosts this evening have been a little bit eclectic. We've got, of course, Robin Metcalf and Ryan Marciniak, who was here for the first half, and myself, Dr. Elena Hyde. As a reminder, you can always connect with us on Instagram and Facebook, and of course, check out our website for show note contents and updates and contact info, and of course, the donate button, yorku.ca/science/observatory. Thanks for tuning in to York Universe. Clear skies, and have a good night.